The man tiled his own bathroom over 2 weekends and did the work well. Buckets, sponges, grout float, all of it rinsed out in the tub, because the tub was right there. The water ran clear by the end, so he never thought twice. 6 weeks later, that tub held water and wouldn't let it go. In the bottom of the bend under it was a hard gray layer, a cable just skated over. The joint had to come out through the ceiling of the room below. He paid for the call, the new trap, and a patch he painted twice. A 5-gallon bucket and a walk out to the driveway would have prevented all of it, and nobody had ever given him a reason to think a rinse bucket was a plumbing decision. I've been doing residential plumbing a little over 30 years, still on the tools. Almost nothing I pull out of a drain was poured down there on purpose. It went down in the middle of doing something else. A pan getting rinsed, a pot tipped out at the sink. So this is 8 things I won't put down a drain in my own house, and the reason for each one. Not the rule, the reason, what it actually does at the pipe wall. Then 3 things people are nervous about pouring that are genuinely fine with one condition attached to each. The last of the 8 is the one people argue with me about. It's the only thing on the list somebody sells specifically to be poured down a drain. And I'll finish with the 10-minute trap read. No tools you don't already own, and it tells you which of these 8 your own house has been doing. Before the list, one thing, because everything hangs off it. Here's what's actually happening once something leaves your sink. What you pour is not what arrives. At the basin, everything on this list is a liquid. 4 feet out, it isn't, because the pipe is a different place than the basin. That pipe runs nearly flat. Water slides along the bottom instead of filling it. It sits at basement temperature, not tap temperature. And between uses, nothing in there moves at all. It's still. Still is where things separate. So there are only 3 things anything can do once it's past the trap. It cools and sets because it was only a liquid while it was hot. It settles out because it was only a liquid while it was moving. Or it keeps taking on water and thickens because it hadn't finished absorbing when it left your hand. And nothing arrives alone. Whatever sets or settles lands on what the last thing left behind. That's why 2 of these together are worse than either one doubled. Number 1 is boiling water. A full kettle, straight down the drain. I'm putting it first because it's the only thing here anybody pours on purpose. Somebody told you a kettle clears a greasy line, and it does do something. Boiling water melts fat. That's the problem, not the fix. It lifts what's on the wall of the first few feet, carries it out to where the pipe is cold, and lets it set again further along. You've moved it past the trap, and the trap is the one part of that line you can still open yourself. The trap under most sinks is plastic, sealed at each end by a soft ring under a hand-tight nut. That's a slip joint washer. Boiling water softens the plastic and takes the set out of those rings. It's why a sink that got the kettle all winter weeps under the cabinet come spring. So it runs beautifully for a day. Then the same clog comes back further out where a cable has to go in from somewhere else. And there's a drip under the cabinet, too. Hot from the tap is fine, and always was. Volume beats temperature. Fill the basin and drop it all at once. Take the kettle out of the drain fixing business tonight. Number 2 is coffee grounds. The puck out of the machine tapped into the sink. Grounds are the finest, densest solid a kitchen makes. They don't float and they don't dissolve. The moment water slows, and it slows at every turn, they drop out and stay. On their own, they'd mostly wash through. They never meet a clean line. They meet a wall that already has fat on it from 100 pan rinses, and fine grit into soft fat makes something with body. That's why coffee is a real problem in a house that cooks, and barely one in a house that doesn't. And the instruction everybody got was to run plenty of water after them. That's the part that hurts. Plenty of water carries them past the trap, the one section you can still take apart yourself. I cleared a line once where the puck went down every morning, with plenty of water after it. What came back on the cable wasn't a plug. It was a dark packed sleeve lining the pipe. You get nothing for a year or two. Then the line clears, and clears again 8 months later in the same spot. A minimum call to pull a trap and find it packed runs somewhere between $125 and $200. Grounds go in whatever's already going out. Move the bin closer to the coffee machine than the sink is. Number 3 isn't the food, it's the water off it. The colander goes in the sink and the pot gets tipped straight down the drain. I've done it myself without thinking. Here's what's actually happening. That cloudy water is starch in suspension, and starch hasn't finished absorbing water when it leaves the pot. It keeps taking it on as it cools, and cooling is what happens in the first 4 feet. So what went down thin ends up as a coat of paste on the pipe wall. Paste is tacky in a way food debris never is. It doesn't block anything by itself. It makes the wall catch everything after it. Every version of this advice is about the solids. The coating problem is the cloudy water nobody thinks twice about, and potato water is the worst of the 3. You'll notice the kitchen line getting slower over a holiday season, then back to normal in January, a little worse than the year before. The usual fix is backwards here too. Hot water keeps the starch swelling and moving out to the cold part of the run instead of dropping it where you can reach it. Tip the starchy stuff into a bowl and out to the garden or the bin. If it does go down, follow it with a full basin of cold in one go. Next pasta night, pour the water into something other than the drain. Quick thing before the second half. If this is worth your time, hit the like button, because that's what puts it in front of somebody about to rinse a grout bucket in a bathtub. Subscribe if you want the rest. Nothing to buy here, no checklist and no email list. Number 4 is grease, and it isn't the kind you're picturing. Nobody watching this pours a jar of bacon fat down the sink. Then you rinse a roasting pan under hot water with dish soap 4 or 5 nights a week, and that's the same fat. Smaller doses delivered better. Detergent doesn't destroy fat. It suspends it and keeps it moving. That's a virtue in a pan and a problem in a pipe. It carries fat past the trap, and the line's own temperature takes it back out of suspension. Around here, that cold section starts about where the cabinet ends, on a long, flat run to an old stack in an unheated basement. You see nothing for 2 years. Then the kitchen line needs clearing every 18 months for as long as you own the house. That little mistake gets expensive fast. A Saturday clearing tends to land somewhere between $200 and $450, depending where you live. A can with a lid under the sink costs nothing. I'd sooner spend nothing every year than $400 every other one, and that's why this ends in a container instead of a product. Wipe the pan cold, or nearly cold, into the trash before it goes near water. Anything with real volume goes in the can, lid on. Put something to wipe with next to the stove tonight, where your hand already goes. Number 5 is rinse water off anything that sets. Grout, thinset, joint compound, plaster. I see this in homes every week. The bucket and the sponge get cleaned in whatever fixture is closest to the work. All of it is powder that sets, and none of it stops setting because you added water. Thin it enough, and it just sets slowly, somewhere else. Somewhere else is the bottom of the trap bend, the one place in your plumbing built to hold still water. Fine solids drop out of suspension in there within minutes, and pack down as the water above goes clear. What's left isn't a clog you can cable through. It's a hard layer bonded to the fitting, and the fitting usually has to come off. The sink runs fine the rest of that day. 3 or 4 weeks later, it holds water, and nothing you pour in will touch what's in the bottom. When a trap or a piece of branch line has to come out, I've seen that quoted anywhere from $300 to $700. More if it's behind a finished surface, like it was for the fellow with the tub. 1 bucket, outside, away from the house and anything planted. Let it settle, pour the clear water off onto gravel, and bin the dried solids. If there's a project running right now, the bucket goes outside before the next sponge does. Number 6 is paint, roller rinse water, and anything that says clean up with mineral spirits. Cleans up with water means the water carries it, not that the water destroys it. Latex is solids held in suspension, and in a trap they drop out and cure into a shell the shape of the fitting. You were told latex is water-based, so it's fine. True about your hands, false about a trap, because a trap is built to hold water still long enough for solids to fall out. Solvent is a different failure. Mineral spirits and strippers don't set, they attack. Every trap in your house is sealed with rubber or soft plastic washers, and solvent swells them and takes the memory out of them. So a joint that never leaked in its life starts weeping months after somebody cleaned a brush over it, and nobody connects the two. Brush out onto newspaper first. Latex rinse goes in a bucket and gets handled like number 5. Solvent never touches a drain. It goes back in the can, and the can goes to household hazardous waste. Go and look whether there's a can of dirty spirits in your garage. Number 7 is melted wax and anything that's only a liquid because it's hot. The last inch of a candle jar, a wax warmer, hair removal wax, lip balm, anything you had to warm up to get it moving. Wax has a temperature where it flows and a temperature where it doesn't, and the second is well above where your drain line lives. Hot water in the jar buys you about 8 feet. Then it's a solid again on a cold wall. And unlike fat, it isn't remotely soft. It doesn't smear and it doesn't wash thin. It goes to a hard rim that stays where it cooled. A cable will punch a hole through the middle of that and leave the ring sitting there. So you get a line that clears, then clears again a little sooner each time because what was there never came out. Freeze the jar instead. 20 minutes in the freezer, then a butter knife, and the plug comes out in one piece. Same for anything else stiff at room temperature. Any candle jar by your sink right now goes in the freezer. Number 8 is chemical drain cleaner. The only thing on this list sold specifically to be poured down a drain, and the one people argue with me about. Here's the honest part. They work, and that's why the argument exists. What they do is open a channel through the softest part of the blockage straight down the middle. That restores flow and convinces you it's fixed. The wall is untouched. Everything that closed the line is still there with a hole through it, and it closes again faster than the first time. Save your money. You don't need it. And when the sink is already standing full, the product never reaches the blockage at all. It sits in the trap, in that water, waiting for whoever opens the joint. This next part matters more than anything else in the video. If a cleaner has gone down a drain that's still blocked, don't plunge it and don't snake it. A plunger sends caustic liquid straight back up at your face. A cable brings it out of the joint onto your hands. That's a real injury, and it happens to people who were only trying to help. Don't put a second product on top of it either. Tell whoever comes out exactly what went down and when, so he can protect himself before he opens anything. And figure on that call running higher, somewhere between $250 and $500. Look under your sink tonight and know what's there. Now the other side. 3 things people get nervous about pouring that are genuinely fine. The first is a cup of water into every drain nobody uses. The basement floor drain, the guest bathroom, the tub nobody uses. The bend under every fixture holds a couple of inches of water, and that water is the only thing between your house and the sewer line. A drain nobody runs simply evaporates, and then the pipe is an open connection in both directions. A cup of water restores that seal completely. The condition. If a drain keeps going dry inside a few weeks, water is a patch and not a fix. Some floor drains are fed by a trap primer, a small line that tops them up on its own. One that keeps drying out is telling you the primer has quit. And if there's a smell, water is the answer, not bleach. Bleach treats a bacteria problem that drain doesn't have and leaves the missing seal where it was. The second is an enzyme treatment, if you'll actually keep doing it. It's the only product in this category I'll say yes to, and it took me years. I don't take to new products quickly. I want to watch one outlast the old way first. It doesn't attack anything. It slowly digests the organic film on the pipe wall, the fat and soap and food residue that makes a wall catch. Nothing about it is dramatic, and that's the point. On a septic system, it earns its money easily. The condition. It does nothing to a blockage that already exists, nothing to mineral scale, nothing to hair, and nothing at all in a line with standing water, which is exactly when most people buy their first bottle. It needs hours of quiet contact with a wall it can reach. Last thing at night, once a month, for a year. Otherwise, leave it on the shelf. The third is plain white vinegar on the parts you can see. A cup of it on the strainer, the stopper, the overflow slot. The hardware, not the line. Our water is hard around here, and it leaves mineral scale on everything it touches. Vinegar is a mild acid, and it dissolves that scale, the roughness you can actually reach. The condition here is a safety rule. Use it alone, not with baking soda, which is a fizz that spends itself in 10 seconds and moves nothing. Never on top of a commercial drain product, and never mixed with anything else, whatever a video told you. And be honest about what it is. That's housekeeping, not a clog remedy. It won't touch what's 4 feet out. Now, I want to be straight with you about why nobody's told you most of this. Nobody's hiding it. When a plumber's under your cabinet, he's got 40 minutes, a cable, and a line to open. Nobody's paying him to inventory what your household pours. I've stood in a kitchen with a coffee machine on the counter and a tile bucket in the corner, cleared the line, and left. It just never comes up. But I don't want to leave you thinking the answer is never to spend money. When a kitchen line does need clearing, pay to have it cleaned back to the pipe wall instead of punched open. That means a proper cutter head worked down the full run, or the trap pulled and the branch actually cleaned. Not a hole through the middle and a hand on the faucet to prove it drains. It costs more, and it's worth every dollar, because the cheap version is the same phone call a year from now. Ask which one you're getting. 6 of these 8 cost you nothing but where you put a bin. Start with the one nearest your stove. Now, some of what looks like this isn't this. Here's how to tell. Case 1. Everything in the house is slow, and the lowest fixtures go first, no matter which one you used. Run a sink upstairs and the basement backs up. That's past all of them on the line the whole house shares. People spend real money in the wrong place here because the kitchen gets blamed. The kitchen's fine. This is where I'd call a plumber. It wants a camera and a machine run from the cleanout, the capped access fitting on your main line. In older neighborhoods, it's usually a clay pipe out to the street with roots in it, and roots come back. You want that seen, not just opened. Case 2. One fixture only, and it's slow again a month after you cleaned it, every time. That's not what you poured, that's the fixture's own hardware. The stopper in a bathroom sink hangs into the drain on a pivot rod and collects hair underneath, where nothing you pour will reach it. People clean the drain faithfully for years and never take the stopper out. Get it out and clean the underside. Case 3. Water comes up out of the floor drain in heavy rain. That's not household buildup, that's the municipal line backing up into yours. Fixing it means a backwater valve or an overhead sewer, and that's permit and inspection work, not a homeowner job. Case 4. It smells like sewer, not like drain. That means an open path somewhere, a failed seal or a vent problem. Don't chase sewer gas by smell. Have somebody find it once, properly. Case 5. There's standing water and a disposal, a dishwasher or a pump involved. Stop. Nothing powered gets touched with water standing around it. And if there's water near your panel or the service wiring, that's an electrician before it's a plumber. That isn't my trade. So, the 10-minute trap read. The U-shaped pipe under your sink is a P-trap, and on nearly every kitchen and vanity sink, it comes apart by hand. One thing first. Don't do this at all if a chemical cleaner has gone down that drain in the last several days. What's in there is caustic, and it will come out on your hands. Bucket underneath. Photograph the assembly first. The 2 big nuts turn by hand 9 times out of 10. If they don't, stop. That's a wrench and a tired washer and a different evening. Take the bend off and pour what's in it onto newspaper where you can see it. Now read it. Soft, dark paste that smears is fat, probably with grounds in it. That's 2 and 4. Grit that settles hard and comes out in a lump is something that sets, so 5 or 6. Long, stringy stuff is fiber, off laundry or a shower. A hard, pale rim you have to scrape at is wax or scale. Wipe the inside of the bend out, put it back with a fresh washer, hand tight, then run water and watch the joints for a full minute. Have that washer in your hand before you start, not after. Mine sit in a drawer where I can find the right one without looking, and that's the only reason this is a 10-minute job. If you do one thing off the back of this, put a lidded container next to your stove tonight. Not a project, not a purchase, a container within reach of where you stand when you cook. Almost everything on this list goes down a drain because at that moment the drain was the only thing available. The container ends that. Subscribe if you want the rest of these.